I think last time we said there are what are the contents of this course, and how do we what are the things that is listed, and what is the scope, and what is expected out of this course is listed in the curriculum. We will try to achieve our best what we can learn from the course. Okay, and also, like I said, probably I'll bring some people who can speak in this line. Okay, in fact, there are 2-3 people who are working on this line, who are um, working very closely with me as well. So and also probably we'll find out somebody who has already worked on these lines, probably from the industry. So let's see. Okay, for now I think we can start discussion. And if you see, this is a 3 hours course, and I don't think I'll be able to discuss 3 hours and all. And we have a tutorial. Okay, tutorial hour is mentioned within the syllabus itself. So I have certain idea, maybe after this lecture we can discuss whether can we adapt this strategy, so that we are sure that this the what is it, the essence of the subject is very well understood, and we make use of the time that we have in hand. Okay, so this is one thing we'll discuss maybe at the end. Like I said, in the first unit I have not put the other units. There are certain key words and key topics that is mentioned. One is on Earth's climatic zone, and then there is a topic on how topography affects climate. Okay, and how do we understand heat and precipitation, wind, solar radiation, solar charts, transfer of energy into atmosphere, and greenhouse gases. Some of it will be overlapping. Okay, for example, let us say some aspects of topography will also be discussing here today. And also, for example, let's say wind, energy transfer, and greenhouse gases, there will be some overlap, okay, in the discussions. So we'll see how best we can try to understand all this during the course of the time. So for today, what I have put is we will understand Earth's climate, how climatic zones are prepared, and how the climatic zones in the are classified, what are the parameters they use for classification, and how best we can understand all this. Okay, so before we actually go into the subject, just to make sure we are understanding things correctly, I have put 2 keywords. Okay, we commonly use this word weather, and we use climate, right? And we should be very careful, and we should know what are we discussing. Okay, so weather is short time phenomena. Okay, and whereas climate is long term phenomena. Okay, the at least if we know these basics correctly, so we'll be using these keywords wisely. Okay, so if you see, weather is the condition of atmosphere at a given place and time. This may be temperature, precipitation, airspeed, humidity, and so on. And normally what we see in the news papers and in the newsrooms is the information about the weather. Okay, they don't talk about climate. So it's a big picture. So actually, if you see the definition of climate, the average weather condition over a long period of 30 years. Okay, minimum of 30 years. These information, that is the same information that we talked about here in weather, will also be discussed. But for the collated information of minimum of 30 years information will be processed to come out or to define what is climate and climatic zones and so on and so forth. Okay, so keep this in mind when we say what is weather and what is a climate. How do we define climate and weather? So Earth experiences an almost infinite variety of weather. Even the same location may go through periods of changing weather. This variation, when considered along with average conditions at a place over a time, constitutes climate. Okay, so over a period of time, if the observations are made, and based on these observations, a climate of a zone is defined. Okay, so yeah, this is also one of the one keyword that we should be, we know for sure, but we should keep this in mind. For example, let us say yesterday it was kind of a rainy day, it was cloudy. Now sun has come and it's pretty hard. So we can't define using weather the climate of a zone. Okay, so these conditions are observed over a period of time, and the zones are classified. Climatic zones are classified in a traditional framework. Okay, early climatologists faced a challenge of identifying pattern as basis of because of this issue in categorizing the regions, okay, into specific zones. To address this challenge, there was a lot of things that has gone in to define how do we define zones. How do we say that this region has this particular climatic zones and so on and so forth. A lot of things has gone in defining it. Probably we'll be seeing how it works. Currently at the forefront of scientific efforts by climatologists are developing models that can simulate the vast interaction and causal relationship of atmosphere and hydrosphere. Climatology, the study of climate, involves analysis of patterns in time and space created by various physical factors of environment. Actually, there are so many models. What do we understand by model? For example, let us say we use this NVMet. NVMet software we use. NVMet is also a climate-based model. Okay, so there are certain characteristics defined in the software. Okay, actually, if you see in Simulation Studio, probably the one who's taking the MR students who are undertaking this Simulation Studio, there are three things that you will be discussing. Okay, and of course, for general understanding, you can see when we talk about the methods. Okay, when we talk about the methods of recreating the virtual environment, virtual real environment in virtual world, there are 2-3 ways in which we can do. Okay, one is recreating as such, okay, the real environment in 3D format. Okay, and then that 3D format model will be processed through certain models. Okay, simulation tools works based on models. Okay, for example, NVMet is a model. It is a mathematical model that is embedded in the software. We use that model for analyzing the build fabric. So there are so many models available with us, and if I have to explain from GIS perspective, we have seen projections, right? Projections, what we use is normally the UTM projection, but if you see there are other models, okay, other projection types available with us. Okay, so based on the requirement, based on the, suppose if the intent of mapping is to get shape, okay, or size or angle, all that, we use different projection types. So like this, for understanding climate as well, there are so many models worked out. uh, and based on the objective, these models are used uh, in the process. Okay, so for example, now there is one initiative, there is one institute in NUS, National University of Singapore. They run a program in collaboration with MIT. It's called MIT Alliance Program. Okay, where actually they are trying to model the climate of Singapore, mesoscale. They call it mesoscale urban climate model of Singapore. So that means they are trying to recreate the uh, climate, okay, of Singapore, so that the accuracy of the model that they are developing is better. Okay, when they take some analysis, it should be far better than just wild guess. Okay, so there's one initiative which is still going on. In fact, if somebody is interested in doing PhD in these lines, you might try. Okay. Okay, the second point that is discussed here is climate is affected by physical parameters. We all know that, and this is one of the primary aspect based on which the climatic zones of the country or the region is classified, based on the physical factors of environment. Okay, weather observations gathered simultaneously from different points within the region are plotted on a map and are compared with identifiable climatic zones within the region. Okay, so and the weather components that combine to produce climatic region include insolation, temperature, humidity, seasonal precipitation, atmospheric pressure, wind, air mass, types of weather disturbances, and cloud coverage, and so on and so forth. Okay, so similar climatic zones will experience similar the same weather pattern. Okay, so here I think these are very basic things, we all know this. How does this work? Actually, there are weather weather stations across the country. Okay, so using these weather stations, the information is collated for over a period of time, and then these informations are statistically analyzed to come out with one climatic data. Okay, so I think for example, we also have weather station at SPA Vijayawada, right? It's 1 year old data. So that means we have 1 years of data as of now. Maybe let's say after 10 years, we will have very rich data, okay, rich localized data with us, and then we can compare with the other data set that we have with us. For example, Gannavaram's weather data, or any other close weather station, Machilipatnam's weather data, and so on and so forth, or Nellore. Okay, actually for analyzing for analyzing the climatic conditions of Vijayawada, we actually use any one of these three weather files, right? Gannavaram, or we use Machilipatnam's weather data, or we use Nellore's data. But since we don't have weather station directly in the city, this we use this. Otherwise, now for example, let us say we have weather station in the campus itself. Maybe after 10 years of time, we'll have a very solid data set with us where you can actually say how the variation between this 1, 2, 3 weather station and our own data set. Okay, our own data set will be more accurate because it is more local. Okay, so there is one more project also in line with this. I think, I don't know whether I have discussed this or not. IIT Roorkee is doing one project by Dr. Rajsekhar. In fact, we have a tie-up with him as well on this project, where he is trying to do net zero peak, energy peak, not energy, zero energy peak demand something, the project title is called. So the essence is how do we cut down the peak energy demand of a particular city? Okay, that's how do you bring down the peak energy demand of a particular city? That's the intent in which is trying to make work on this project. And why am I discussing this is he is also has installed different small micro weather stations. Okay, they are collaborating with IIT Delhi as well. IIT Delhi and IIT Roorkee, they have combinedly made one device. Actually, he was supposed to give one device to us, but still I think in the process. So that device is kept in different parts of the city across the country, and then informations are collected for 3 years to check whether these informations are worthy enough to take it further in classification of climatic zones of country. Okay, this is one of the major expectations from the project. So okay, let us hope that in some time, 3 or 4 5 years from now, we may have some solid outcomes from this kind of project. Okay, climatic zones are areas that have similar temperature and rainfall will share same climatic zone. Okay, so if somebody asks you what is a climatic zone, how do we define it? So maybe these the two things are should be kept in mind. One is temperature and the other one is the rainfall information. And climatic zones are largely determined by two factors: temperature and precipitation. Temperature is influenced by latitude, altitude, land water, ocean current, and barriers. Okay, barriers in the form of topographical changes and so on. And of course, when the precipitation is influenced by the airspeed, prevailing wind conditions, and so on and so forth. Okay, so we will be looking at what the components that impact the factors that influences climate in little bit detail, and then we'll also see one or three classifications of climate, and then we can stop the discussion for the day. Okay, so the first component or the first parameter that will influence climate is latitude. Okay, we all know this. Also called the factors that influence climate is also called sometimes climate controls. Okay, so when you come across this kind of word in the literature, so I hope you will be able to recollect this. Climate control are the factors that influences the climate. Okay, of such factors, latitude is one of the first factor. Okay, as latitude increases, the intensity of solar energy decreases. The tropical zone is between, we know this, right? This is basic science. Okay, as we go up, okay, the solar energy decreases. Okay, and tropical zones are between 23 degree north to 23 degrees south of equator. Okay, and in this area, okay, we receive almost perpendicular sun rays. Okay, so the sun's rays are almost intense throughout in this region. Tropical and these zones are called tropical zones, right? So and as we go up in the latitude, okay, as we move past 23 degree north, further up or further down 23 degree south, okay, so the intensity of solar radiation decreases because of the curvature of the earth surface. Okay, so that has got an impact on the climate. Okay, the amount of solar radiations that we get and the intensity of solar radiations that we get on the earth surface. So this is one thing that we should know, and also please catch up these words. tropical zones, okay, tropical climate, okay. So synonymous words, because so many classifications are there, probably sometimes we may get confused, okay. So tropical zone, you keep this word tropical zone, and the temperature is also tropical climate. Okay, so the second zone, we know that temperate zone, okay, which is 23.5 degree north up and south. Okay, so here the intensity is slightly less because the sun angle is smaller, okay, and then the intensity is less. Fine. So these are called temperate zones, and the climate in these zones are also we say right temperate climate. Okay. So there are certain further sub classifications within that climatic zone, but broadly you can keep these things in mind: temperate zones and temperate climate. And the third one, these extreme climate or extreme zones that we have within the Earth's surface is polar zones, which is 66 degree above north and south. Okay, so the sun's rays strike at very small angle, and these are probably very cold regions that we have on this surface. Okay, so latitude is one aspect, one major parameter that influences the impact of that impacts the climate. Okay, so here what I do is I'll just okay, fine. So that was the first component. Okay, the latitude. The elevation also has an impact. Okay, and this is also again a basic science that every 100 meters there is a reduction of 1 degree Celsius. Okay, so the higher the elevation is, the colder the climate. Okay, so this is also one thing that we should keep this in mind. Okay, and probably we'll be discussing this in little detailed manner in the next class, where we'll talk about topography. Okay, so how topography influences, okay, and also we'll discuss a little bit more in detail when we go into this. Yeah, elevations and topography. Yeah, topography is a third component that influences again the climate. Topographic features such as mountains play an important role in amount of precipitation that falls in an area. Okay, so this is one indicative example. For example, let's say these area will be much greener. Okay, because of this is one good example. Okay, we have this what is this range between the south and the west. No guess, right? This kind of topography also will have an influence, because because of this natural feature, the cool air and the rainfall that comes from the sea will be stopped by this physical entity. Okay, and many of what is it? Most green part we may be on this side because of the intensity of rainfall that we get on this side. Okay, and on the other side, just on the other side, we may have dry areas because of the less intensity of rain. Okay, and the blockage of the wind that is coming from this side. Okay, so this is we are talking at very large scale, regional scale. Okay, and this we also talk at very building level as well. Okay, so there should not be a blockage of windward directions. We do talk about this kind of things in the site plan as well, right? So the same phenomena happens at the regional level also. That is what is discussed here. Then the other component that influences climate is, of course, having water bodies near the land mass, which may include the sea, and which may include river, and which may include wetlands and water bodies and so on. Okay, so large water bodies such as lakes, oceans have important effect on the temperature of area, because temperature of the water body influences the temperature of the air above. Okay, so during daytime, what happens? The surface here in the water is cooler, and this is getting heated up because of the light. These are very basic things. So, and there is a cycle that happens. Okay, cool air replaces hot air, and hot air replaces cooler. Okay, the reverse things happen in the night. Okay, where the landmass sheds, okay, the its excess heat into the water, and the reverse things happen in the night. Okay, so having water body will have a bigger influence on the settlement that we have. Okay, and this is one of the interesting subject of research for architects, urban designers, and planners, and so on and so forth. Okay, a lot of research has taken place in this field, in this dimensions, and in fact, I also like dwelling in this kind of topics, where we were I think I must have told you in the class as well. We have tried to do how the having water body, how do we measure? Suppose if we have this water body in a particular settlement and a city or urban fabric, and how do we estimate what is the impact of this water body in the immediate surrounding? How far we can experience the impact of this? Okay, so in literature nowadays we use a word called cooling islands. Cooling islands. And these cooling islands are nothing but the water bodies and greeneries that we have. Or you may also come across a word called green infrastructure, right? GI in city, impact of GI in city. These are both water body and greenery can also be studied in the similar manner. And in fact, there are studies which says how do we define effectiveness of a water body? How do we define the effectiveness of water body? By shape, depth, okay, and its physical property. Okay, so which kind of what will be the appropriate size and shape of water body that will have an impact, okay, on all this. Now since we have the advanced tools, we are able to simulate things and see having such water body is actually causing benefit or it is causing problem. Okay, and there is one very interesting paper called where they have experimented the notion of water bodies as passive cooling, right? Using water body for passive cooling, right? But there are studies which have proved that having water body in a wrong size, shape, and direction will actually cause more harm to the city than not having. Okay, so in fact, for example, when the Amaravati master plan was proposed, okay, I don't know whether you were there at that time. There was one presentation from the architect's side. Okay, so that there they have also quantified how the river, because the entire settlement of new city, the entire city was planned just beside the river Krishna. Okay, so they have actually did some simulations and said how this the river, how far the river will have an impact on the city. Okay, so and also this is one topic where you can actually see. Let us analyze one water body or one chunk of green space in urban areas, and analyze what is the impact of this green chunk on uh, in the city. Okay, the correct technical word for this is, we use this in we have come across this word called ecosystem services, right? So this is kind of a service that we take from the ecosystem. Okay, so there are two three things, right? Provisional ecosystem and so on. So like this is one benefit that we extract from these natural features. Okay, the second dimension of doing some kind of research in this line is, you may have come across something called urban climate map. Okay, so for different city, yeah, what we are talking now is broad climate. Okay, at world level, how climatic zones are classified and what are the parameters that is used for classification of climatic zones. Then in the subsequent classes, we'll also see at Indian subcontinent level how, let's say for example, based on the major broad classification, let's say the Indian subcontinent is classified as tropical. So how this tropical climate can be subdivided based on different these features. For example, topography will change, land mass will change, we'll have water bodies in our place, we'll have obstructions like mountains in the land. So based on these natural features that we have within the land mass, how do we sub-classify the climatic zones? Okay, so that is second level of classification. And the third level of classification that we can think of is urban climates. Okay, so for example, Delhi has a different climate, Mumbai, Chennai, Vijayawada has different urban settings and urban climate. Okay, so this is new phenomena that is happening, new research that is happening in this domain, where we are trying to create city specific urban climates. Okay, so maybe once you suppose if you are interested in working on these lines, in fact these are my interest areas. Maybe so if you need more information in these lines, maybe we can have one lecture also on urban climate only. Okay, I can demonstrate what are the parameters that goes in defining urban climate, and what are the components that we should take care, and how it is directly relevant to planning and design of urban areas. Okay, so maybe we'll keep this discussion, maybe if required we can go in deep and check how do we do this. Otherwise, what I'm trying to hint is, there are three scales of urban climate, three scales of climate that we can understand. Okay, the lowest form of climate is urban climate, where we do city specific climate models, and then we come out with specific strategies to enhance, okay, wind movement, or to cut down the excess solar radiations and so on and so forth. Okay, in all these, these parameters will remain same. The temperature, the humidity, the amount of vegetation that we have, okay, and the water body that we have, all that. And in fact, in urban climate, we'll be going little more deep and say what is the population and what is the build-up that we have. These 7 or 8 parameters that we have in hand will help in defining the urban climate. Okay, that's the third scale in which we can study this phenomenon. And the fourth scale is microclimate. Okay, microclimate is further down, further uh, within within this urban climate, okay, there will be different hot spots and cool spots within that city. Okay, so how do we define that? And in fact, in whatever MARC studios that we do is more or less on microclimates. Okay, so we don't even go to urban climate discussions. We restrict to microclimate and immediate context climate. Okay, so that's where we are actually working on, where we architects, especially in MARC studio, we use this scale of analysis. Whereas we can even go to this, and above that is more only meteorologists or the climate consultants may be interested, or suppose if you are interested in this climate change related studies, then probably you can go to the second level. First level, I don't think anybody will be interested in doing it, because it's about very broad global scale analysis that has been discussed. Then since the discussion that we are doing is of macro global scale, okay, the other parameter that influences climate is of course the atmospheric air circulation that we have. Okay, and I hope this you must have read in the geography class some time back, way back, where global winds are discussed, doldrums, horse latitude, okay, easterlies, westerlies, okay, all that probably you must have learned some basic things about what is this from geography perspective. Okay, so these world at the scale of the magnitude of this scale, the changes in any of these parameters will also have an impact on the overall climate of the Earth's surface. Okay, so global winds are another factor that influences climate, because they distribute heat and moisture around the Earth's surface. Okay, so I have one small, I think you are all aware of this, right? I think so. Let me. Okay, so this is global phenomena. Okay, how it impacts the Earth's surface or Earth's climate. The other factor that influence climate is of course vegetation. Vegetation can affect both temperature and precipitation pattern in a given area. And we all know this, but probably this information may not be, it may be new for you. In fact the climatic zone is in fact based on the type of vegetation is the earth surface, the different earth surfaces that we have. Okay, so maybe when we go into the classifications of climate, then I'll tell you how it all has started. Okay, who has started and what is the premise on which the climate zones are prepared. Okay, and in fact the most important factor that is used for classification of world climate is vegetation. Okay, so different based on vegetation, the entire the land mass is divided into different zones, climatic zones. So in summary, classifications of classification is a process of ordering or grouping data or a phenomena in a relatable class. Okay, how do we, for example, there will be n number of ways in which we can classify, but how do we do that? Based on same temperature, same rainfall pattern, same vegetation, same water characteristics, or same vegetative nature of land mass, and so on and so forth. This is one way of, this is how classifications are done. A classification based on causative factor, for example, the genesis of climate based on interaction of air mass is called a genetic classification. There are different ways in which the climatic zones are classified. Okay, one is based on the causes. Okay, change in temperature, change in air mass, change in precipitation level. Okay, and if the climate, if the Earth surface is divided based on that, then it's called one way of classification. It's called genetic classification. The empirical classification is based on the statistical data that we have acquired for over a period of time. Okay, we discussed in the initial slides the information or the weather data is collated for 20-30 years. Okay, and based on this information, statistical information, they are grouped in a manner, and I think we'll be going through that in little detail. And the climatic zones are climate zones are prepared. I'm often using the word climatic zone, climate zone. Okay, climate classifications based on temperature and precipitation data are based on empirical analysis, and this is what we'll be following actually, and which is what we use is empirical classification. Okay, what is a classification and who has prepared this kind of classification? Climatologists study climate and use a system to classify the world's climate. Köppen classification, Köppen climate classification is one of the most common classification that was developed by Dr. Köppen. Okay, and his classification, a classification system based on mean monthly precipitation and mean monthly temperature created by climatologists. Okay, this is the most what is it, common classification, climate classification that we use as on date as well. Okay, and in fact we will be going through the details of this classification in coming slides, on how he has done it, what are the parameters he has used, and how we read this climate classification map. This is one classification done by this. The second classification is called tone-wide classification, when an American climatologist initially he came out with this is in fact after Köppen's work. He came out with a classification for North America. This is an American, so he came out with classification of the climate for North American land. Later, then he came out with using the same principle. He extended this scheme for the entire world. Okay, and he further notified his scheme and presented and revised. In fact, this was his initial idea, and then he revised it, and he came out with a new classification as well. And the reason why his classification was not that appreciated was because of the complexity in nature. Okay, the scheme he has prepared is complex, and it was difficult to take it up. In fact, this is just I'm giving you very brief introductory discussions. We'll be going little bit more about these three. The third classification is also there. These three classifications a little bit in detail, so that we know, we are clear what are we discussing and how climatic zones have been prepared. The third classification is called is by Threadworth classification, and again he's from American. Sorry about it. In fact, this is an extended version of Köppen's classification, and he wanted to simplify what Köppen had derived. Okay, so it is kind of ultimately presented a simple scheme of climatic classification, having a blend of both empirical and genetic schemes. Okay, so he wanted it is a kind of a compromise between purely empirical and genetic method of classification of Earth climate, and he was he was insisting that the classification should be simple and should not be complex, so that it is user friendly for others. Okay, so it is a kind of Köppen's classification, but it is a simplified version of Köppen's classification. So you can remember that the classifications are of three types. Okay, there are three people who have done, and major one. Of course, there are another. I think not less than 15 classifications are there, which are used, which are available in, at least in the literature. But these are commonly most famous ones, and in fact we will go into details of one of it in a while. Okay, I think what I do is maybe I will stop for the day. Maybe if it is